Fort Worth kind of grew the same way for 40 years that may be coming to an end. Push north, build suburbs, extend highways, rinse and repeat. This playbook created Keller, Southlake, Hazlitt, and some of the fastest growing cities in America. But if that's changing, it's not because we're out of land. Today I'm going to break down exactly how Fort Worth's growth model is changing, which areas will benefit and which will stagnate, and what this means for you right now. Here's what most people don't realize. Fort Worth just didn't really stumble into becoming one of America's fastest growing metros. For decades, the growth pattern was incredibly predictable. Developers would find cheap land on the north side of town, lay out a master plan community, extend the highway, and repeat that process. And in this system, it worked because Texas sits on a flat Texas prairie with no really any geographic barriers. We've got no mountains, oceans, and nothing really stopping expansion except political boundaries. And the land was affordable. You could buy massive parcels in Denton County for a fraction of what you'd pay closer to downtown. And of course, this created places like Keller in the 80s and 90s, which grew from a small rail stop to one of the most sought after suburbs in the country. And then the Alliance Corridor exploded with thousands of jobs and thousands of homes. Then Northwest Tarrant County went through a massive shift in the same time frame. And that wasn't random. These were the direct result of a deliberate, repeatable formula. You buy cheap land, build infrastructure, attract corporate relocations, and watch families follow the jobs in the schools. The entire system depended on three things being consistently available, which was number one, affordable land. So then you had land that was accessible via highways and land that could be connected to utilities without massive upfront costs. But here's what's wild, and I'll show you the exact data a little bit later on, but these $400,000 starter homes in the northern suburbs don't exist too much anymore. The entry point has completely reset. For 40 years, Fort Worth had all three in abundance to the north, and that abundance is running out. Which brings us to the real question, which is, why is this happening right now? So if you think about it, think of like a developer sitting in their office, running some numbers on a Justin or Northlake land deal, and the math just doesn't really work too much anymore. That's really right now happening across North Fort Worth. So what's changed is not one thing, it's a combination of forces all hitting the same time, and together they're creating a completely different environment for development. But let's talk about the land itself. Fort Worth isn't running out of land. There are still thousands of undeveloped acres throughout the Metroplex, but it is kind of running out of the right kind of land. By late 2025, some of our northernmost pockets saw the median sale price drop significantly year over year, and homes are sitting on the market for over 100 days. And that's a massive correction. However, that could have been just a couple of sales that set that off as well. So homes are still priced pretty well in these areas, and if you look at certain pockets, you won't see that same percentage of a drop. Keller's median price is holding high, but days on market are up significantly. And then you have Argyle, which is still holding on at a high premium. That's seeing home takes much longer to sell than last year. So what's happening is really kind of simple. The land in these northern suburbs it's really not affordable suburb land anymore. It's a premium. Developers who used to target these areas are now doing the math and realizing they can't hit price points that middle income buyers can afford. The cheap land is pretty much gone. The close inlands is gone. The large parcels near major job corridors gone. So developers are really left with two choices: pay premium prices and build luxury homes for a limited buyer pool, or go somewhere else entirely. Infrastructure is the second major constraint. In 2024, DFW commuters lost an average of 69 hours sitting in traffic. And so that's up 4% from the year before. So a trip that should take 20 minutes now takes about 26 minutes or more during rush hour. So people are kind of hitting this commute ceiling. They're not willing to drive 60 to 90 minutes each way just to afford a house in another suburb. And of course, sure, there's a lot of projects underway. I-35 has seen major work. Highway 114 is getting constant updates, but these projects aren't really catalysts for new expansion. They're more like congestion relief for areas that are already built out. They're trying to make the existing system work better, not really extend the system outward. And they're just not keeping up right now. That's the bottom line. The regional water utilities are projected to serve millions more by 2030 to handle the growth and the expansion. So the city and region have invested billions in pipelines from East Texas reservoirs. And that's kind of a long-term expensive infrastructure that acts as a natural brake on limitless sprawl. You can't just run water lines anywhere. You need massive capital investment and decades of planning. So when you combine expensive land with infrastructure that's maxed out, you get a fundamental reset. The suburbs that were the default choice for the last 20 years are no longer the obvious answer. Keller and Southlake were once the frontier, but now prices there put them in the premium category. And it's not entry level. That's not even mid-market. That's premium. And for many buyers, that's out of reach. When we talk about the emerging western and northern corridors in just a few minutes, you'll see these exact same master plan amenities for nearly half the price. The opportunity gap is massive right now. And this is kind of like the inflection point. Developers are now actively looking for the next Keller, the next Hazlitt, areas where they can still buy land affordably, build homes at price points that actually buyers can afford, and access infrastructure without spending hundreds of millions up front. And that search is taking them in kind of a completely different and new direction. So where exactly are they going? If you're trying to figure out where you should actually buy in this shifting Fort Worth market, we've helped hundreds of families relocate to North Texas every single year. I've lived here almost 50 years and track these development patterns in real time, and I can show you exactly which corridors offer the best value for your specific situation right now. And by the way, my name is Sean, my business partner is Mindy, and the team and I would love to help you make your next move to Fort Worth. The next era of growth is going to be heading into deeper Denton County and the West. So you look at cities in the Northwest corridor that are some of the fastest growing in the entire country between 2020 and 2024, not in Texas, in the entire country. That tells you everything about where Fort Worth is heading, where the next growth move is coming from. If the immediate north is kind of tapped out or at least slowing down, where does Fort Worth grow? The answer is unfolding right now in our distinct areas. And of course, understanding these corridors is critical for anyone thinking about buying in Tarrant or Denton County over the next decade. If you look at the Northwest and West, that expansion is probably the next big wave. The most obvious shift is happening to the Northwest. Cities like Justin, Ponder, and Northlake are experiencing explosive growth. Remember, these cities are topping the list with massive growth rates. These aren't just random small towns anymore. They're becoming the next generation of Fort Worth suburbs. And why is this happening? Well, because these areas still have what developers need, which is affordable land, upcoming utility corridors, and reasonable access to job centers like Alliance. The median sale price in these pockets is often significantly lower than the established suburbs, which allows for real healthy appreciation without the price correction you're seeing in the older northern suburbs. Developers can buy land, build homes in the $400,000 to $600,000 range, and actually sell them to families who are relocating from California, Illinois, or even New York. And here's what is interesting is that this isn't just about land being cheaper, it's about infrastructure following. New road extensions are being planned and utility districts are being formed to bring water and sewer capacity. In 10 years, these cities will look like Keller did 15 years ago. You've got master plan communities, resort style amenities, excellent schools, but right now they're still affordable. And that expansion is obvious when you look at the data. There's a second wave happening that most people are completely missing, and that's the rise of the redevelopment of inner ring suburbs. Something fascinating is happening closer to the urban core. That's flying under most people's radar. Developers are realizing it's often cheaper to buy an old house in North Richland Hills, Hurst, or even parts of Haltom City, tear it down and build new than it is to buy raw land 50 miles away. And this is kind of creating a redevelopment wave in suburbs that haven't seen this level of investment in decades. Cities are attracting new capital investment with major projects happening in their downtown cores. The cities are building new city halls and public libraries. This isn't just maintenance. They're going for full transformation, focusing on transit-oriented mixed-use development. And that's a complete reimagining of what an inner ring suburb can be. Then you got areas actively pursuing downtown revitalization, offering incentives for developers to redevelop the historic districts. Why does this matter? Well, because if you own a home in one of these areas, your property value is being driven by the underlying land and its potential for higher density redevelopment that's happening all around you. These redevelopment plays are smart money right now, but there's a third corridor that's in a much earlier stage, and South Fort Worth is a different story altogether. This is a long-term transformation that's really just beginning. The scale of investment that's happening right now is impossible to ignore. You've got the Chisholm Trail corridor, which is designed to connect the heart of Fort Worth to the southern expanses, and the city's putting serious money behind that. We're seeing grants for massive projects that will include hundreds of homes, parks, and lots of retail. The city also approved contracts for crucial trail connections and green space. This is early stage stuff. You're not going to see immediate returns like you would in the Northwest or the Inner Ring, but if you're thinking 10 to 15 years out, this is where the next major urban transformation really starts to happen. And of course, South Fort Worth has proximity to downtown. It has underutilized land, and it's finally getting the public investment needed to really bring in the private development west. We've covered 3 major new growth corridors, but that raises really kind of an obvious question. What about the northern suburbs? I know what some of you are thinking, does this mean Keller and Hazlitt are done? No, absolutely not. These are still strong markets with excellent schools, amenities, big corporate presence, but the explosive growth phase may be over. These areas are mature. They're no longer the value play where they were 10 years ago. Keller and Southlake's prices put them in the premium category. They'll continue to appreciate, but probably at a slower, more sustainable pace. The days of 15 to 20% annual appreciation are probably behind them. What you're going to see is the northern suburbs will continue infill development, luxury home construction, and focus on maintaining what's already been built. They're shifting from this explosive growth mode to more established suburb mode. And that's not a bad thing, it's just a different phase of the market cycle. So understanding where Fort Worth is growing is one thing, but what does this actually mean for you and your wallet? Well, let's make this practical. If you're planning to move to Fort Worth in the next year or two, then what does all this actually mean for you? Well, first of all, the safe bet suburbs are no longer really obvious. For the last 20 years, the default advice is move to Keller, Southlake, you can't go wrong. And honestly, that's true. But today, these areas come with a premium price tag and a little bit slower appreciation potential. They're still great places to live, but they're not the growth plays they once were. The best values and really the best long-term growth potentially are now found in these emerging corridors in Denton County and the West. So you got places like Justin, Northlake, where you're going to see the next wave of explosive development. And these are areas that are still affordable. They're getting infrastructure investment, and they're in the early stages of the same cycle that Keller went through 15 or 20 years ago. Second, you have to start looking at the current amenities and focus on future infrastructure, like where are the new road expansions planned? Which areas are getting new utility corridors? Where are school districts expanding? Those are really kind of the questions that will determine property values over the next decade. A house in a city with no infrastructure, without an infrastructure plan, is risky, but a house in a city with $1 billion development project underway is an opportunity. And then third, if you're considering redevelopment areas like North Richland Hills or Hurst, understand that you're buying into a kind of a transformation story. These aren't going to feel like brand new master plan communities right away, but they have something the outer suburbs don't, which is proximity to jobs, established infrastructure, and land values that are going to be driven by redevelopment pressure. And if you're okay with a more established environment and you want to be closer to downtown without paying the highest prices, these areas are worth serious consideration. But if you already own in Fort Worth, this whole shift creates a completely different set of opportunities. The other thing to keep in mind is the reason people are willing to move even further out is that they're still within proximity of the major employment hubs like Alliance, which is really becoming the primary engine for North Texas. A lot of people are working in those areas. It's why I've said that DFW will become the, it's going to be FFW. It'll become Dallas, Frisco, Fort Worth. Fort Worth is the main hub on this side of the Metroplex and will continue to be for the next 50 years. Now, what does that mean for homeowners? If you're already on a home in Fort Worth, the shift creates different opportunities depending on where you live. If you're in one of the northern suburbs like Keller or Hazlitt, your home is in a mature market. You're not probably going to see the explosive appreciation you might have experienced in the early 2000s or 2010s, but you're also in one of the most stable, desirable areas in the state. Your value is driven by schools, amenities, and quality of life. That doesn't just disappear. It just means your equity growth will be steadier and more predictable. And if you're in one of the emerging corridors like Denton County or the Northwest, you're positioned in what could be the next high growth decade. The appreciation and demand show a healthy interest without the overheating you saw previously. If infrastructure continues to follow the development, these areas could see significant appreciation over the next 10 years. And if you're in an inner ring suburb like HEB or North Richland Hills, the redevelopment wave is creating a completely different kind of equity opportunity. Your property value is about the land underneath, its potential for higher density use. And as developers target these areas for tear downs and rebuilds, land values are going to be driven up independently of that structure. So that creates opportunities for homeowners who bought years ago and are now sitting on land that's worth significantly more than what they paid. All of this comes down to one central truth about Fort Worth real estate. So here's the bottom line, is that Fort Worth isn't really running out of land, it's running out of easy land. The growth pattern that shaped the last 40 years won't be the pattern that probably shapes the next 40. Developers are pivoting to the Northwest and deeper into Denton County. They're developing inner ring suburbs and they're making long-term bets on South Fort Worth. Family relocations, investor decisions, and buyer strategies all need to kind of adopt this new reality. The days of simply following the main highway to the next master plan community could be coming to an end. But the map's being redrawn right now, and the buyers who understand these shifts will position themselves in the corridors with the most long-term growth potential. Buyers who don't will find themselves either paying a premium in mature markets or chasing appreciation in areas that have already peaked. And if you're thinking about moving to Fort Worth, whether it's next week or next year, we help people relocate to North Texas, Northeast Tarrant County every single day. I've lived here almost 50 years, and Mindy and I know this market inside and out. All of my contact information is below or on the screen. We know that you'll love Texas as much as we do. I'll see you next time.